I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Sarah Clancy, and I work at the Institute for Human Development, which is the University Center of Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. I want to thank you all for coming. I've also wanted to let you know that I've been an occupational therapist working in early intervention with kids ages 0 to 3 throughout my career and throughout Northern Arizona. And so our team here at IHD is bringing you the third session of Paths. This is the last for this installment, but we're really hoping that we're able to bring these back and take your feedback and address new topics in the future. So this project is Paths. It's providing accessible training and home support for parents with intellectual disabilities. And today we're going to talk about tools and resources. We would like to thank the following programs and institutions. We have funding from the Arizona Developmental Disabilities Planning Council, or ADDPC, and they've made this program possible. So we'd really like to extend our gratitude to them. Also to Northern Arizona and the Institute for Human Development and all of the support that our team members at IHD have given us as well. And two very important groups that have really helped us craft and create these trainings are the Paths Parent Advisory Board and the Paths Home Visiting Supervisor Advisory Board. Both have taken lots of time to help us develop these trainings and make sure that they're covering relevant topics. We'd also like to include a thank you to all the home visitor interviewees that we've been able to talk with through the past year, and wanted to let you know that we're still looking for a couple more. If you're interested, I'll share my email in the chat later on, and you're more than welcome to get in touch with me, and there is a thank you as an incentive. So with that, we'll move on. Here's our Paths team. We are all employed at the Institute for Human Development, and like I said, I'm Sarah Clancy, and I'm an occupational therapist. I'll let Erica introduce herself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Capizzi. I'm a social worker. I've done a lot of things in the field of social work, including a lot of work in the homes with families, also worked in child welfare, school social work, and a lot of medical, have a lot of experience with families and children. So yeah, thank you for being here today.
Great. And we also have on our team Michelle Lee, Greta Cruiser, Maggie Brockman, Nicole Stone, and Alex Dickman. Okay, so Erica, I will let you go forward.
So as usual, we have a couple of learning objectives so that if we do our jobs, by the end of the training, we would expect you to be able to answer these couple of questions. The first being identify at least 2 resources for, that should say parents, forgive me, parents with ID. And second, describe how to use plain language when working with parents with ID during home visiting sessions. And I wanted to make a quick note that I will be reading the contents of all the slides, and we've been doing that throughout the trainings. And, you know, it came to our attention that we never really explained why we do that, but it's a way of making the trainings accessible to everybody by reading them all the way through, all the words, and not assuming that that I can skip over and that all of our audience would be able to fill in those pieces. So that's kind of why we do that. If it feels like there's a lot of reading, it's for a good reason. And also wanted to quickly share that we ran into some technical difficulties this morning, and we're working through them, but if things feel awkward occasionally, that's because they are, and we're trying to work from our home computers and things like that, some of us. So anyway, let's move on. So let me see. Okay, trying to see all the things on my screen that I'm used to having 2 screens for. Okay, so today we're really excited. We have a guest speaker with us like we did last week. And today's guest speaker is Lindsay Brillhart. She's here with us and we're super grateful. So we're gonna hand it over to her for the next few minutes and she's gonna introduce herself and share a little bit about her story as somebody living and parenting with ID.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lindsay Brillhart, and I'm coming to you from the Cincinnati, Ohio area. I have 2 kids. I have a daughter that is 22 and a daughter that is 13. But more, I speak about my daughter that is 13. So my daughter that is 13 doesn't talk. And you're like, how do you get somebody that doesn't talk to communicate? We use PECs. So like, for example, I don't know, can you see my things? So my daughter says, it says, let's go. And if my daughter wants to go to like the playground, McDonald's, a car ride, zoo, swimming pool, or park. For the summer, we use this. So she can point to, if she wants to get a cheeseburger, she loves cheeseburgers from McDonald's. So we can, she can point to this picture so we can take her to McDonald's. I have an intellectual disability myself. I have Asperger's syndrome, and I have a partner that I've had for, oh my goodness, 15 years almost. So it was like a big step forward. So why I'm here is because my family, and you met Kiana last week, we are a part of a organization called TASP, TASP. But before I do that, and Erica, I think, has everything about it. We were there, and this is one of the resources that you could use too. It's called A Celebration of Family Stories of Parents with Disabilities, edited by Dave Mathis, and it's about 14 chapters of parents with disabilities, different disabilities, and my story's in here too, and how I got involved with TASP. And there's a slide in your called Association for Successful Parenting. But why I got involved with that organization is a really sad story. Sometimes I like crime stories and things like that, and I like to know why things happen. But the story goes about, there was a mom that had a little boy that was 10 and had a foster family, and the real mom had the kid and couldn't take care of the kid. And the foster family was about my age, and I'm in my 40s. And the foster family was in their 30s when this happened. And they couldn't take care of the little boy, and the little boy had autism and nonverbal like my daughter. So he was locked into a cabinet for a weekend because they didn't want him to be out with the family. Long sad story. The little boy got killed, and he got his remains burned into the Ohio River. And I live near Cincinnati, near Kentucky. So his remains got thrown in the river. But the story brings enlightenment to me because the little boy had autism, and I'm a mom with a little girl that has autism, and it's like, okay, what can I do better for my family? Or what can I do, if not my family, families in my area? What can I do better? So after this story, I got involved with an organization called TASP, the Association for Successful Parenting. And I work with them. Now, you want to know about supports, probably. My family doesn't get a lot of professional supports. We're actually working on that right now on getting some professional supports because I have a partner, and my partner works full-time, and I work part-time with TASP. So I don't have a lot of extra time, and I love to be around my kids and everything else. But I've learned that I need some extra time for me. So we have worked with, we have worked with a organization locally to get my daughter respite. So basically what respite is that somebody can come into my house and help take care of my little girl. My little girl needs but 95% of the time she needs help making sure that she is safe. So like if somebody is not at home, I can go to the bathroom, but I couldn't get in the shower and things like that that take over 2 or 3 minutes. So we are working on getting her respite. The other thing is that she likes to escape. She's my monkey. She could climb out of, she's one of those kids that can climb out of anywhere and everything. So we have a stroller coming at the beginning of June. I'm excited for that. In like 2 weeks. So my daughter can, sorry. So my daughter can be in a place that is safe for her. We have a 5-point harness with the stroller coming. And the supports that, and there are supports that we use that are natural. For example, my neighbor last week had a lemon cake. And she was like, Lindsay, would you like a piece of my lemon cake? And gave me a piece of that big of lemon cake. And I was like, okay, I'll come over and see it. And we check on each other because sometimes even moms that have disabilities, and my neighbor doesn't have a disability, need help checking on each other because this world is a little bit crazy and we know that. So we check on each other just to make sure that everything is safe for our families. And if we need something or if my neighbor needs something, I'll go over to her house and like leave her a can of, not a can, but leave her some vegetable soup or something during the winter and things like that. And she leaves me cake and things like that. So we work together as a team. There are two things that I would encourage you guys to do. Work as a team. Besides that, I have a team that works with my family, that works with my daughter. Let's see, there's a behavior support specialist, my daughter's team at school. So it's an aide, a principal, and a behavior support specialist at school. A wraparound coordinator, which gets everybody together. Sometimes we know what we're all busy. Moms, dads, everybody, we're all busy. And we like to have everything in order. So that wraparound coordinator coordinates the meeting, just make sure that everybody's going to be at the meeting and make sure that we have notes and things like that for our meetings.
Hey, Lindsay?
Yes.
Hey, Lindsay, sorry. I
ahead.
didn't mean to interrupt. I wanted to, if you don't mind, if I go into the next slides and then you can kind of still interject some
Go
of this
ahead.
information like as it
Go ahead.
comes up in the next slides. Is that okay?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So the next little bit, we just wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about some of these bigger overarching federal and state government supports. And I have a quote in here that was in our previous training that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention again, which is many of the correlates associated with worse outcomes for children of parents with intellectual disabilities can be attributed to social and environmental factors that stem from a lack of supports and services. So the point here is that there aren't great supports and services for parents with ID. And the two main ones we're going to address real quick here are the Arizona Department of Developmental Disabilities. Many of you are probably pretty aware. In Arizona, it's called DDD, and Lindsay had shared that in her state, it's called something else.
DDS.
DDS, that's right. And there is a link here that you'll be able to access when you look at the slides later to get a little bit more information. But the real takeaway here is that in addition to a diagnosis of ID, the individual with a disability must also show significant limitations in daily life skills due to their qualifying diagnosis. So most of the parents that we're talking about who are currently parenting and need a little bit of extra support are going to be too high functioning to qualify for this service. So we're dealing with people very much in that gray area of needing support, but not qualifying for it. And then the second big one that comes up a lot for people with disabilities is Social Security. Social Security is incredibly complex. Every time I sit down and try to delve into it, I leave feeling more confused. So the kind of big takeaway here is that some individuals with ID will qualify and some won't. Having ID will not necessarily qualify an adult because there are a lot of qualifiers. It's complex. There are a lot of different pockets of Social Security, but it is, for a lot of people, a really good financial resource. So it is worth looking into. And then next, we want to talk about supports that are actually helpful. They are a little bit more informal, like Lindsay's been mentioning, but there are some things out there for parents with ID to be able to connect with other parents and get information that they need. None of which are financial, and we know that's an ongoing problem. So we've got TASP that Lindsay mentioned, stands for the Association for Successful Parenting. Kiana from our last training was also involved in TASP, or is also involved in TASP. I'm sorry if you can hear my cat in the background. So their kind of mission statement is, we are dedicated to enhancing the lives of parents living with cognitive difficulties and their families through education, advocacy, and support. And so here are some of the things they do. Parenting tips for parents, by parents, for parents, free webinars. Sorry, I'll clean this up a little bit. Lindsay had let me know about these 2 trainings when we met last week, and I intended to make that a little cleaner so that you could see what those were. But there will be a couple coming up in the fall, one on stress and mental health and one on IEPs.
So
Both
really quick, let me
Yeah.
talk about that for 2 seconds.
Sure,
So
please do.
what we do is we have a professional and we have 2 parents that do those, and they're open to everybody and anybody, and we get asked all kinds of questions. So we figured when we were looking at the year, September is close to the beginning of the school year for lots of people, and they have lots of questions about how to get support about IEPs and things like that. So we were thinking about that. With the stress, it's going to be mental health, it's going to be physical health, how to take care of ourselves, because that's close to Thanksgiving time. They're open, and if you want to go to the next slide, it's about Brandeis, and I believe that's the next slide.
Yeah.
So we partner, TASP and Brandeis work hand in hand with some of the things. So like, for example, I'm on the task board, but I work with Brandeis because my daughter was born at less than 2 pounds. My daughter she could wear Cabbage Patch clothes. That's how small she was. And so they're learning lots of things and lots of research and resources about people that have disabilities. But a lot of the things that Brandeis does, they want to get more people involved. So we talk about TASP. We have a few trainings coming up. So get on, if you see our TASP stuff, we can get you, if you get on our on our website and everything, we post when we're going to do the things for Brandeis. Some of the things go hand in hand with Brandeis, some don't. Kind of like I do some of the things for TASP, and I do some of the things for Brandeis, so they work hand in hand with each other. And actually, it's really, really cool because with working with Brandeis and working with TASP, I get to go sometimes, not very much, but I get to travel sometimes. And I'm traveling for a research thing it's not with Brandeis, but it's with a bigger organization about research about parents with disabilities and stuff like that. So it's really interesting because I'm gonna be with people from Brandeis. I'm gonna be there for TASP, representing TASP. But there are people from all over the world. And sometimes we present with Brandeis. We presented like 2 weeks ago, and there was a lady from Sweden and a lady from New Zealand. So it's very, very interesting. All the people right now for TASP work in the United States, but we work all over the United States. I was telling Erica on Friday, it seems like a lot of the people live on the East Coast and on the West Coast, but there's not a lot of people in the middle. So we're working on getting that middle part with more resources, because every state is different that we work with to get the resources that the families need.
Thank you, Lindsay. I
Yes.
appreciate it. I think in the interest of time, I'm probably going to skip the next couple. We really want to make sure we can do our like collaborative part this time, because last time we ran out of time and kind of had to skip it. And so I think, and these will be on the website, but the next one is about the ARC. And then the one after that is about Ability 360, which is a Center for Independent Living. They do a lot of work in this realm. So you'll still have access to all this information, but we really wanted to do the next section. So I'll talk really quickly.
One
Yeah.
second. I'm gonna jump off here to go on my task thing. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to email Sarah and Erica, and they can get in touch with me to answers to any questions. If you need any questions about resources and things like that, I am willing to talk to families about things that you guys do. I've been talking to a family in California about how to, they want to have a baby someday. And so they wanted information from me how to talk to their families and things like that. So feel free to in touch with Sarah and Erica, and they can get in touch with me for questions. I wanted to let you know that real quick.
For sure. Thank you, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
You too.
Okay, so so Proud Parents is cool. Kiana from our last session is really heavily involved in Proud Parents. It is out of the state that she lives in. So they do some local work, but they have some stuff that's available to anybody. They do virtual support groups for parents with disabilities. And I believe Proud Parents is specifically works with parents with intellectual disabilities. Their entire website is in plain language, which we'll talk about in a minute. They have a face group book where people can connect. They have a lot of videos. Kiana has shared a few videos with me, one of which is linked on this slide about disability awareness that they made. And it's all parents trying to support other parents. So really cool. Next slide. So this one is new to me, but Lindsay mentioned this. I met with her last week in preparation for this training. And so she had brought this to my attention, and it was something new to me. I thought I'd just throw it in here. And you guys can take a look if you're curious, but alphabet soup is a term used to describe contexts where there are too many acronyms and abbreviations. And this is especially common in the disability community. So this link goes to government resources or government, forget which department it is, but it's in the state of Ohio. So some of theirs are specific to Ohio. I couldn't find one specific to Arizona, but the point is that this is something in the disability community where people can access all the acronyms that they get thrown at, and people with disabilities get thrown a lot of acronyms. And that's particularly challenging for parents with intellectual disabilities. So this is a place where they can look up all of those acronyms. And so, and a lot of these are Ohio specific, but I'd say even more of them are not, and they're just disability community acronyms in general. Sorry if you can still hear my cat. So this was going to be questions for Lindsay, but she had to go to another meeting. So again, you can email Sarah or myself, and we're happy to get in touch with her. She loves to advocate for other parents. So, okay, so we're going to do a little bit of, we're going to talk a little bit about plain language. I know it's come up in the last two and we haven't gone too deep into it, but we want to go a little deeper into plain language in this training, and then we'll break out into some groups and do a little activity together. So here are some general guidelines in terms of what plain language is and is not. The ones that I have underlined will go into depth a little bit more, but plain language uses short, simple words. You use the same term consistently. So you wouldn't use the word baby and infant in the same paragraph. You would pick one, probably baby. You remove unnecessary words, address one person and not a group. And I'll show you what that means. Use the active voice. I have a hard time with this, takes practice. Use contractions like don't where they sound natural, kind of like write as you would talk principle. Use examples and use lists. So replace a paragraph of instructions with bullet points, for example. And then there's links to the federal plain language guidelines, which are highly complex and meant to make sure that really complex documents get translated appropriately. So with anything with legal language, things like that. For our purposes, we can really just kind of pull out some of the bits of plain language and not worry about making sure we hit every single mark. The point is we want to try to simplify and make it more accessible for more people. So you don't have to get caught up too much in all the details of plain language. If you were to go to that website, you would find yourself a tad overwhelmed. So anyway, so the first is we want to use active voice. So I have a couple examples here. So in a passive voice, we would say, social behaviors are learned by children through observation and interaction with peers. You would change that into the active voice by saying children learn social behaviors through observation and interaction with peers. So it takes out some of the confusion, and most of the time we'll shorten the sentence in the process, make it less wordy. The second example is confidence is built in children when they receive positive feedback. In active voice, children build confidence when they receive positive feedback. And there's even more we could do to those sentences to make them even more plain language. But for the purposes of this, just kind of want to show you the difference between passive and active voice. Okay. So addressing one person, not a group. So a lot of times you'll see language that gets handed out to parents that say things like babies' sleep patterns change frequently. A better way to say that to make it more accessible to more people would be your baby's sleep patterns will change frequently. So making it more specific to one person instead of generalizing to a group. The other example is when parents understand their infant's cues, it helps create a strong bond. Instead, when you understand your infant's cues, it helps create a strong bond. All right. So a lot of us can be really wordy in our writing. I think I know I struggle with that and using more words than necessary. And we've kind of been trained to do that in college and professional writing and high school, all those things. So in order to make it more accessible, we want to take out unnecessary words. So here are a few examples of what that can look like. So instead of a number of, we'd say several, a few, or many. Instead of is able to, we would just say can. In order to would just be to. Be responsible for would be must. On a monthly basis, monthly at this point in time. Now would be the more accessible version. And in the event of would be if. Okay, all right, so when it comes to plain language and translating things into plain language, it's not a perfect science, right? Like I said, you could go look through those guidelines and you'd be really overwhelmed because they can be quite complex. But there are ways we can use plain language in our daily lives that are not complex. For those of us for whom language isn't easy or natural and might need a little bit of assistance, I've done quite a bit of playing around with ChatGPT to see how well it does with this type of work. And I think it's an incredibly helpful, free, quick tool that we all have access to. And it's not perfect. Like I said, it's a tool. And given that you all and your wherewithal of the type of information that you're presenting to parents about babies and infants and development, your knowledge base is so high that you could input something into ChatGPT, have it churn out a plain language version for you, and you can check it and make sure that feels appropriate. Anytime I've had it do this activity, it's done a really, really great job. So it's very low risk in terms of getting incorrect information. But for those of you who aren't as familiar, ChatGPT is a chatbot that uses artificial intelligence, or AI, to act as a digital assistant. It is capable of engaging in conversations by using natural language input. It's currently an imperfect system that requires human oversight. We have probably all heard a lot about that. It does very well with creative tasks, of which this is sort of, not entirely, but somewhat creative. It's free, or at least the older version is free. That's the only one I've ever used for this activity. You can also use the voice command on the app. So it's something you could do very quickly, very accessibly in a home, either by typing or speaking into. my recommendation when doing this activity, and we're going to show you a little bit what this looks like, but my recommendation is that before you ask it to translate something into plain language, is that you ask it to tell you what plain language is. And this is a tool in the field of AI that helps the chatbot get oriented in the right direction and will likely perform better. I've also asked it to translate stuff without doing that, and it's done very well, but that's kind of the recommendation. And then again, after it translates something into plain language, review it to be sure all the information is correct. So of course, we still want to do that. And in this context with the knowledge base you all have, that's very doable. Okay, next slide. So this is an example of one task that I gave it recently on tantrums. So this was a paragraph I pulled off of line. I believe it was American Academy of Pediatrics, a little snippet on tantrums, and asked it to put that into plain language for me. And this is what came out. So I'll go ahead and read it. Tantrums are common during the second year of life when language skills are developing. Because toddlers can't always say what they want or need, and because words describing feelings are more complicated and develop later, a frustrating experience may cause a tantrum. As language skills improve, tantrums tend to decrease. So this was what was up on a website for everybody to read, but not 100% accessible for everybody, right? So here's a simplified, more in tune with plain language version. And so you can see at the top, I started by just asking it, translate the following paragraph into plain language. And what it gave me was tantrums happen a lot when kids are about 2 years old because they're still learning how to talk. They might get upset because they can't say what they want or how they feel very well yet. This frustration can lead to a tantrum. But as they get better at talking, tantrums usually happen less often. And I could pick this apart and find ways to make it even better. So like I said, it's not perfect. You could take out some of the generalizations and say your child, for example, would be another way to make that even more accessible. So I went on to ask, go ahead there, thank you. Went on to ask in the next to describe a tantrum. And I really liked this definition that it gave. So a tantrum is when somebody, usually a child, gets very upset and behaves loudly or uncontrollably, often screaming, crying, or throwing things. So if you were to look up the definition of a tantrum online in professional websites, you'd get something a little more complicated, would probably have words like dysregulation and such. And it can be a little bit much for some parents to take all that in. So there's our quick, again, sorry if it feels a little fast paced. We really wanted to make sure we got through this section today. So next, we're going to do a little plain language activity. We're going to break out into groups again. So I'm going to present kind of a scenario, a really kind of generic scenario, but involving a pediatrician visit. So when a parent takes their child to a pediatrician appointment, they're often given handouts to take home. I'm sure many of us on the call are parents. I know I get a lot of these at my children's visits. There's always one about the developmental stage, so 6 months, 2 years, things like that, plus other things. These handouts are about different topics. Most of them talk about different stages of development and what to expect from the baby or child. So with your breakout group, we're going to give each group a small section to translate. It comes from an actual handout that would be given at a pediatrician appointment. I just pulled some from different handouts that I found, and we're going to try to translate it into plain language or simpler language. You can hear it, you'll hear it called different things too. The point here is that it doesn't have to be perfect and follow all the plain language guidelines. We want to focus on simplifying and using everyday words to make it as accessible as possible. So don't get too caught up in the details, but it's really more of just getting through that process. So, okay, do we feel ready to do these groups, Nicole?
Yeah, if I could just tell the group leaders,
Yeah.
we may be distributed into groups that are different than our Word document. So just go with the number that corresponds to the work document. That's just for the group leaders, the paths team.
Oh, so do you mean,
So I might be group 1 instead of group 5, but I'm going to do the first scenario,
gotcha. So I'll be doing 4.
whatever group you're in.
Oh, whatever group I'm in. Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome. See you soon. Nicole, you're muted.
I'm following you, so it'll record your room.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's special. To find my.
You're in room 1. Since you're a host, it doesn't let me assign you.
That's okay. Yeah, I was looking at that too, so that makes sense. All right. Ah, stop. Sorry, everybody. So is anybody else in my room? Hello? Hmm. Hi, Heike. Can you hear me? Hi. I don't know what's going on with our
Hi.
breakout rooms. Hi, how are you?
Oh, fine. I'm sorry I had to switch because I realized I didn't have microphone or camera where I was before.
Oh.
So before the breakout room, I had to switch.
Okay. I'm just texting Nicole because I think for some reason you and I didn't get put into a breakout room. So hang tight with me. We'll hang out for a second and I'm going to try to see if I can get this figured out.
Yeah, I was in room 4, but I had to log off.
Okay. Do you want me
Yeah.
to see if I can put you, let me see if I can get you back in there. Hold on one second, Heike.
Okay.
Oh, here it's us.
Are you from Hawaii? No?
Yes.
Where?
Big Island, you know, so, have you been?
No, I want to go
Wow.
someday.
Yeah.
Do you go there often? Or not enough?
Like a year, every other year.
Nice.
Before I started this job, I was in Hawaii last October
Mm-hmm.
for my grandma's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
I had a virtual interview in Hawaii. So I was like,
Nice.
it was nerve wracking. But yes, it's only occasionally. So hopefully next year we'll have like time
Cool.
and energy.
Yeah.
I have 3 kids and it's a lot.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Nice.
How about yourself? Where are you from?
California originally.
Okay.
I moved to a couple places, moved around, and then I ended up here because my spouse works for NAU.
Nice.
You should be able to join your room now. I gave you a room assignment. Did it give you the notification?
For free.
No, I'm not seeing it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Mr. Grady, yep.
Okay.
What does your spouse do?
She is program manager for the NASA Space Grant internship. Yeah.
I was in room 4 before, but I had to leave. Here we go.
Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully y'all had enough time to come up with your translations, I guess we should call them, or your new language. I was in group 1. I'm Sarah, by the way, again, and I was voted to get to share mine in our groups. So let me, I'll share what it was in the chat and then describe what we came up with, just so. Oh, maybe I already put it in the chat. Here, I'll just do it again. I'm not sure who can see the chat from before. Okay. So the scenario we were given was that if a child sucks on a pacifier, his thumb or his fingers, this habit may affect the shape of his mouth or how his teeth are lining up. If a child stops using a pacifier by 3 years of age, his bite will most likely correct itself. If your child continues his sucking habit after his adult teeth have come in, orthodontic care may be needed to realign his teeth. And our group went ahead and just really simplified it to, if your child sucks on his thumb or finger, it may change how his teeth line up. If your child's teeth don't grow in straight, they will have to see a special dentist to get braces. So we simplified that down into 2 sentences.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I like it. Gets
Well,
the message across.
yeah, and I think keeps the educational piece in there about why it's important to discourage thumb sucking or finger sucking. So thanks to group 1.
Thank you.
Pass along.
I can share a little bit of ours. I'll just, to keep it quick, because since we only have a few more minutes, I'll just share that a couple of the sentences. So for ours, the first sentence was, as your toddler becomes more independent and talkative. We changed that to, as your toddler grows and uses more words. We also, our paragraph had a lot of reasons why toddlers use the word no. And so our idea was to simply state toddlers say no for many reasons, and then have some bullet points that say things like helps get attention, things of that nature. So that's kind of ours in a nutshell. If anyone else wants to go.
Well, I was group 3, so I can go next.
Good.
Our activity talked about the importance of breast milk, as well as not feeding your children solid food until a certain age. One thing that we really did change was from the, it says at 4 months of age. We just changed it to 4-month-old babies. And then it went on about how breast milk or iron fortified formula remains the best food. We just simplified that to breast milk or iron fortified formula is the best, are the best foods, like using more of that active voice. And then instead of using like a more cautious tone, and solid foods are discouraged, and like larger, like more complex words like that, we switched that kind of advice or warning to try not to feed your baby solid food before 6 months old. And then we also omitted some longer like transition words, like be cautious of, or lean away from, and just said your baby is full if he or she is turning away, and you should stop feeding.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we've got 2 minutes, so maybe, do you think it's best to just go and talk about the survey link?
Sure. I just wanted to, let me share my screen again.
Oh, sure.
Hopefully everybody got something out of that activity. Let me put this in the slide mode. Okay, can you all see my screen? I'm going to go back. I
Mhm.
just want to make sure everybody knows this. When the slides get posted on the website, you will have access to, here's the website for ChatGPT at the bottom. So that'll be a live link from the slides, or you can just Google ChatGPT and it will come up for you if you want to play around.
Yeah, and there's quite a few links and there's probably a dozen or so links throughout the PowerPoint that you guys can go back to. We are also going to create a couple of lists of sorts. We haven't exactly formalized what that'll look like, but some resource lists that kind of compile this information into something that you can print and have with you. So that'll be coming onto our website shortly as well.
Soon, yeah. And finally, before we let you go, we'd love for you each to complete this survey. It's really important for us to know how we're doing, whether or not these trainings were helpful or what we could do in future trainings for everybody. And it lets us know a little bit more about you all as well. And then I told my group I'm going to do a merciless plug here to please, if you're interested in being interviewed, I would love to meet with you. It takes a little less than an hour, not more than an hour. And we do have a gift card that we're offering as an incentive. So whether you've worked with parents with intellectual disabilities or not, I'd still really value your story and would love to hear your experiences. So feel free to reach out. Otherwise, does anybody have any last questions or comments or anything like that? All right. Well, hopefully we've given you helpful information today. We're so glad everybody came and joined us. We're going to have this recording on our website as well in case any of you need to go back and reference it along, like we said, with the slides and some other resources. So thanks for your time today. It's been really great meeting together. We don't have any other trainings scheduled at this time, but we're hoping to have some in the fall again. So keep a lookout and we will certainly notify you when that happens. So take care, everybody, and reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye, Jen.